personally pleased, and we are excited as a city to honor Dr. C. Delores Tucker with a personal tribute prepared on behalf of the city of Philadelphia. And I would ask her husband, Dr. William Tucker, president of the MLK Junior Association for Nonviolence, to join me here at the podium, and I want to present him with this tribute. Dr. Tucker. This is the tribute from the city. I'm not going to read the entire tribute, but I'm going to give you this portion here. In 1984, C. Delores Tucker established a National Political Congress for Black women to advance the interests of the Black community, especially its women, focusing on issues of voter registration, education quality and equality, welfare reform, and fair and adequate legal services for all. In 1993, she challenged the record industry in general and Time Warner Incorporated in particular in an effort to combat the perceived negative effect of gangster rap on America's youth. Dr. Tucker broke new ground in this campaign, uniting forces across political party lines and engaging notable entertainers and celebrities in her endeavors. The campaign expanded to include major media outlets in order to curb the marketing of violent and adult-oriented material to children and teenagers. C. Delores Tucker was fearless in her convictions and uncompromising in her work to improve the quality of life for youth in America. It is fitting and appropriate, therefore, that the city of Philadelphia officially recognize with this tribute Dr. C. Delores Tucker for her uplifting contributions to improve the quality of life for humanity. Dr. Tucker passed from this life on October 5th, 2005, but her legacy of selfless courage, her advocacy on behalf of America's youth, will live on to inspire all those whose lives she touched, whether known or unknown. Signed by me as the mayor of the city of Philadelphia, June 29, 2012. Congratulations.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Gale, Mr. Eisner, and the fabulous young lady, Miss Melanie Johnson, standing here. She does such a great job for you, Mayor, all over this city. And Mr. Gale, I would warn you that you should watch your back, because Leah Douglas may be taking your job one of these days. Been held in here this morning. This is really an awesome day, an awesome moment in the lives of the Tucker family, especially to be here for such an honor as this, and to see so many friends and family members here to witness this great moment of history. This is really a moment of history. And I am so proud to acknowledge the presence of 4 of my wife's, the only 4 living nieces of my wife. No, there's one other that I'm missing. Well, I can afford to make a mistake, but I'm a senior citizen. But I want Dr. Barbara Nottage to stand up. And I want Dr. Loisy Palin to stand up. That's another niece of hers. And I want Miss Betty Knox to stand. And they're both from Washington. She's from the Midwest. And Miss Loisy Allen back there, another niece. They all came from Florida. And recently I had Kathy Lane. Kathy is the most important one. And you know why I forgot her? Because I raised her. At least my wife and I, we raised her. And yeah, she's like a child. And Raymond Lane, he's like a son, sitting over here. So we are very happy that you have come out for this occasion. And recently I had the experience of going to the burial service of my closest living relative on my mother's side in Bedford, Virginia, who passed. And that experience made me feel somewhat alone. I said, well, really, I kind of felt like he was the last relative that I could reach out to. But of course, he has a son who's present here, Vincent Ross. My cousin was Ross on my mother's side. So I'm happy to have Vince and his wife Donna here. And I feel like he's the closest thing to me now on my mother's side. So I don't feel alone so much anymore. I want to applaud those who were responsible for making this decision to include my wife. Your intellect and your wisdom was truly on target, because I feel that she was one person who did, and you've never heard me, no one has ever heard me brag about her. But I feel that knowing what she committed herself to throughout her life, I feel that this honor she is worthy of the honor that you bestow upon her today. Especially in connection with the celebration of the 225th anniversary of the Constitution, which has been heralded by historians as the greatest document ever conceived by man, the Constitution of the United States. So again, to briefly quote Abraham Lincoln, it is fitting and proper that we gather here on the 225th anniversary of the Constitution to pay tribute to the life and legacy of the lives of those who with their lives have provided meaning and purpose to this document called the Constitution. Historians, political scientists, scholars have heralded this as the greatest document ever conceived by man. Yet we all know it was not without flaws. And the faces behind me that we celebrate today on this wall, on this occasion, are the faces whose efforts helped to cure some of the imperfections that was contained in that document. While it was a great document, we all know it was not a perfect document. Last year, we celebrated, and some perhaps mourned, the anniversary of the Civil War, the 150th anniversary of the Civil War. That Civil War was fought to cure one of the most glaring imperfections contained in the Constitution. That's what the Civil War was all about. The Founding Fathers wrote slavery into the original Constitution. Whether you know that or not, that was legal to have slaves in the original document of this Constitution. To take it out of the Constitution, the United States engaged itself in the bloodiest conflict that it was ever engaged in. Perhaps most of you don't know that. We lost more men in the Civil War, more American lives, over 700,000 casualties, more than we lost in the Second World War, the First World War, the Second World War combined, did not equal the number of lives that we paid to cure the imperfections that was contained in this great document that we call the Constitution.
Amen.
But that war demonstrated that this Constitution lives, that people are dedicated to what it stands for, and they demonstrated that when they fought this great battle on many areas of this country. And this is where the ills of Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, and the faces of freedom that are behind me, that now includes my late wife, Delores Tucker, comes into focus. She, along with thousands of others, wanted to stretch and expand that blanket, that constitutional blanket, to include all Americans. And that's what they dedicated their lives to remove the blemishes that the Constitution contained. When she was 17, my wife, she started picketing. She started a life of activism. She picketed the old Bellevue Stratford Hotel in the night when she was a lad of 17 years of age, because why? They refused to allow a very prominent black athlete, they refused him accommodations when he came here to perform. And when she graduated from high school, her father took her to the Bahamas. That's where her parents were from, the Bahama Islands. He was taking her to Nassau for a graduation gift. They drove to Florida, and when they reached Florida, Miami, they had to get on a boat to sail over to Nassau. This is in the 40s. And when they got on this boat, when the evening came, it took quite a while to cross from Miami to Nassau. And when nightfall came, they told all the blacks on the boat, you have to go down below, in the bottom of the boat. She refused to go. She stayed on deck all night long. This was in February. And she got an infection of one of her lungs as a young 17-year-old girl because she refused to be treated as a second-class citizen. And that remained with her for the rest of her life. But she never let that deter her at all. She wanted to go march with Dr. Martin Luther King from Selma to Montgomery. She was always daring and ready to go and get involved in any fray, anywhere with anybody.
That's right.
And I said, dear, I don't think I can afford to let you go there to march with Dr. King. And she said, why? You've never prevented me from doing anything else I wanted to do. I said, because if I saw someone turning a dog loose on you or a fire hose, I would never feel like a man again until I found him and gave him the proper treatment that he deserved. I said, that's why I don't want you to go. But then she later prevailed on a group of ministers. They called me and said they would make sure she was protected, that they would keep her in their midst at all times. So I finally relented and permitted her to go. She was always, I won't go into mentioning all the political things that she attempted to do because that would be too numerous to talk about. But just to mention one of her courageous acts to stretch that blanket of the Constitution so that it covered all Americans. During the 1988 Democratic National Convention, she was chair of the Democratic National Committee Black Caucus. And to get to the convention center where the conference was, you had to walk quite a distance up a long walkway to get to the hall. So she called the chairman into a meeting at the office of the Atlantic Life chairman, Jesse Hill. Many of you know who are older, who was quite active in getting the King Center built in Atlanta, Georgia, and in many, many enterprises involving the civil rights movement. They had a meeting at Jesse Hill's office, and she, as one of the officials of the Democratic National Committee, told the chairman that if he did not permit Ben Hooks and Dorothy Height and our people of prominence give them permits to drive up to the door of the convention hall, that she would lay down and block anybody from going up there. Because she saw children being driven up there, of some of the officials, children being driven to the door, and yet Dr. Height and Ben Hooks and some of the others were struggling to get up the pathway. And she challenged him, and unless he permitted that, she would stop the convention. And believe me, she would. That was how daring she was. On the Sojourner Truth, she worked for 10 years to get the bust of Sojourner Truth in the capital of the United States. You know, they had the bust of the suffragettes in the basement, so they brought it up and put it in the rotunda of the Capitol. So when they did that, she said, why are you giving recognition to these suffragettes, the 3 suffragettes, and they left out Sojourner Truth? Because Sojourner Truth was just as active for the rights of women as any of the suffragettes were. And she wanted Sojourner Truth to be honored. And she picketed the Capitol when they had the ceremony to bring those suffragettes from the basement and put them in the rotunda. And she worked tirelessly, many of you know, got petitions signed. And 3 years ago, Sojourner Truth was placed in the capital of the United States. And the First Lady had the privilege of preaching there. And I must give credit to 2 people who did that. Hillary Clinton, she really shepherded that through the Senate. And Sheila Jackson Lee from Texas, Congresswoman, and she did it in the House. And she finally got that done. And that was her last crusade. And all of you know about gangster rap, how she was determined to stop the major music companies of this country from selling this filth to children that they could go in record stores and buy. CDs with all kinds of language on it, telling children to disrespect their parents, to disrespect their teachers, to engage in the consumption of drugs and violence. And when she heard that, one of the tapes, she was horrified. And she challenged the record industry all over, every aspect, every facet of the record industry. She challenged them to stop distributing and promoting this music to America's children. And she was successful in getting Time Warner to stop it. And an English company stopped it. I can't think of the name of it. But as a result of that, she had to endure 3 lawsuits. We had to fight 3 lawsuits from the entertainment industry. For 10 years, those battles went on, trying to intimidate her so that she would back off. One of the record and company executives called one of the congressmen in Washington and asked him, well, who is this woman, Delores Tucker? We can't seem to stop her. He said, well, had you asked me, I could have told you, you couldn't intimidate her. Nobody intimidates her. And he was correct. She was absolutely, if she felt the thing was right,
that's right.
And if it was wrong, it was no in between. That's the way she was raised. That's the way her father was, who happened to have been a minister. But she wanted this culture cleaned up to the extent that some children, if they wanted to, grow up with a decent mindset, with decent moral values, so that they all would not be corrupted in the values of this nation. Recently, I was interviewed by a foreign journalist. They were doing a TV documentary, and during the end of the interview, he looked at me and he said, give me one word that sums up your wife. Just one word, not a statement, one word. And I was a little perplexed for a moment. I thought of many things. And I said, no, I can't say that, because I said, well, she was certainly loving. She was loving, you know, but I said, well, that's not all of it, though. I said, let me think of something else. And the one word I came up with is what the mayor mentioned here today. The one word was that she was fearless. She was absolutely fearless. I was married to her for some 55 plus years, and I never heard her get up in the morning and express fear about anything, anybody. I never heard that. Now, if she was fearful about something, she never revealed it to me. And I often wondered, is she just that way, or is she naive? You know, she just doesn't know what dangers are lurking out here in this world. And I finally concluded it was a combination of both. And for a year and a half, when she would travel, the entertainment industry, some parts of it, they tried to put a contract out on her life, we were told. Janet Reno called us into her office one day and said, everywhere you travel, you're going to be tailed. The FBI will pick you up they will tail you rather, from the airport to your destination and back to the flight. And so you won't know who they are, but they will be there in case you feel threatened about anything. That went on for a year and a half, back during the Clinton administration. But she was a person that if she believed something was right, she was ready to give her life for it at any time and at any moment. And finally, because she believed that her faith and the Constitution would shield her and protect her from anything man could devise, she felt she had no reason to be fearful or afraid of anything. And the more I think about that, the more I thank God for her life, and I thank God for giving her to me as a wife for some 55 plus years, and I thank God for the family that she developed and nurtured around us. And to everyone associated with this effort, again, I applaud you for the decisions that you have made to make this possible and for your presence here today. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Excuse me.
Oh, like this?
Yeah, just turn a little bit, and then we're going to have a countdown.
Have video later? No, she could just take a picture.
Take it close together, we'll count to 3, 2, 1.
Shadow shot first?
Yes. Yeah. One more. Okay.
So we'll go with a countdown from 5.
That's good, man.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Come on, Leah.
You think so?
Okay, we'll let everybody take on this. Here we go.
Oops, sorry.
Everybody go?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
How are you? Good. I'm a great